Hello and welcome back to How to Survive a Horror Movie. We're looking at chapter 666. The Satanic Verses, Curses, Demons, and the Devil himself. What an excellent day for an exorcism. Sung to the Simon and Garfunkel Sound of Silence. Hello, Satan, my old friend. I've come to fight with you again. Because you're worse than any poltergeist. You turn our kids into the Antichrist. And the demons that you planted in that girl made her hurl. Now hear my sound of violence. I will never do that again. Shoot it. What to do if your corn has children in it. Not only is farming one of the deadliest horror occupations, remoteless animals, sharp things everywhere, but in the hands of most screenwriters, corn stalks are antennas for receiving evil. Why? Because they're a clear metaphor for isolation. Easy to get lost in, cheap to film in, and best of all, very, very hard to see in. Because cornfields are such ripe horror territory, they're often infested with demons, sign-making aliens, winged carnivores, and worst of all, fanatical children. Religious child infestation is every corn farmer's worst nightmare. The onset of sudden, and the result, can be disastrous for the crops. If left untreated, the little buggers will make themselves at home, using inventory to make crucifixes, trampling paths everywhere, and chanting Bible passages day and night. If your infestation has already progressed to conducting human sacrifices and summoning false gods, burn the whole mess and collect government subsidies until next season. If you've caught it early enough, here are some safe, somewhat humane ways of driving them out. Each step is increasing in severity. 1. Fire up the crop duster. Farmers use aircrafts to spray their fields with bug-killing chemicals. You can employ the same method to counter the effects of corn-dwelling kids. But instead of spraying pesticides, you'll need to blanket the infestation area with something that neutralizes naughty children. Some suggestions. Crush Ritalin. Nothing soothes a savage preteen like a bloodstream full of Ritalin. Get your hands on several cases of Ritalin, mill it into fine powder, and dust away. Before you know it, the little buggers will be off to find the nearest Sylvan Learning Center. About 40 pills per child should do the trick. A skimpy tank top. Due to their religious fanaticism, corn-dwelling children dress like 18th century Puritans, a weakness easily exploited with a single piece of 21st century clothing. One of the female pests will happen upon the tank top and try it on, instantly making her the hottest girl in the cornfield. The other females will divide into two groups, those who befriend the girl to bask in her popularity, and those who denounce her as a total whore. The males, meanwhile, will practically tear one another apart trying to be with her. Result? What had been a harmonious, God-fearing community is now a John Hughes movie, and the colony destroys itself from within. Pot brownies. It doesn't matter what kind of demon they have protecting them. Nothing has more power over a child than the smell of fresh-baked brownies, especially when you've been gnawing on nothing but raw corn for months. Drop a few pot-laced batches. You're on your own when it comes to scoring the ingredients over the focal point of the infestation and wait for the hungry vermin to gobble them up. When you hear Redemption Song or Comfortable Numb in the distance, that's your cue to drive into the field, round them up, they won't resist, and dump them into the nearest 24-hour diner where they'll share a plate of gravy fries and talk about death till the sun comes up. 2. Build a baseball field. If crop dusting comes up short, don't despair. In the late 1980s, a loophole was created in the all-movie cornfields are evil law, and you can reap the benefits with only a small investment of time and money. a horror movie parenting guide. Don't have kids in a horror movie. Oop. Fixed it. Being in a horror movie is hard enough. Raising kids in one can be hell. If you're the proud parent of a creepy child, keep this quick reference guide handy in case of emergencies. Symptoms. My child's imaginary friend is talking through his or her index finger. Treatment. Your child's imaginary friend is actually a very real manifestation of his or her psychic abilities. Therefore, listen closely to whatever it has to say and act accordingly, even if it tells you to cancel traveling plans or cut your spouse's head off. Symptom. My child is speaking a language he or she's never studied. Treatment. This is a classic demonic/satanic possession symptom, though it can also result from a mischievous ghost using your child as a human puppet. Note, if your child is speaking Latin or speaking backwards, you've definitely got a possession. Either way, summon a... First, clear a few acres of your corn, preferably near your farming house. Next, build a baseball field. You'll need some dirt, chalk, fencing for the backdrop, a few poles, some lights, and of course, regulation bases. The whole shebang shouldn't run more than a few $100,000, assuming you do the labor yourself. Once the field is complete, it shouldn't be more than a few days before deceased Hall of Famers show up for practice. At this point, your cornfield has been transformed from evil to merely enchanted, and the children will be forced to leave. A word of warning, if you leave the baseball field up too long, you'll be swarmed with motorists who felt compelled to drive all the way to your farm to see it. You'll also run the risk of your dead father showing up. It's always a hassle. You'll be able to summon a priest who will be able to determine whether the exorcism is necessary. If so, see page 151. Symptom. My child is having conversations with the TV or dead people. Treatment. Your kid is probably being visited by a lost soul with some unfinished business, or whoever is just looking for companionship. Usually nothing serious. In fact, the ghosts can be quite nurturing and educational. However, they can cause physical harm in rare cases. Proceed with caution. Symptom. My child's nanny just hung herself in front of us. Treatment. Unfortunately, your child is the seed of Lucifer, heir to the throne of eternal agony. Make sure you buy him lots of presents. Symptom. My child screams obscenities at me, slams doors in my face, and tells me that I'm going to rot in hell for all eternity. Treatment. There's nothing wrong with your child. They're just a teenager. 3. Conduct auditory warfare. In 1989, the United States invaded Panama and cornered dictator Manuel Noriega, who'd taken refuge in a Vatican embassy. Since they couldn't enter the embassy without permission, the army turned to an alternate weapon, rock and roll. Using the huge speaker, they blasted the building with ear-piercing music. Eventually, Noriega surrendered. In 1993, the U.S. government tried a similar thing during the Waco standoff with less desirable results. Aim a group of giant concert speakers at the infested area and blast the most child-repellent noise you can think of. The vermin will either be driven out or driven insane, which is a win-win situation as far as you're concerned. A few playlist possibilities. The O'Reilly Factor for Kids audiobook. Imagine the horror of getting advice on being a teenager from a 50-something who wrote this. The adults don't have to be in the room snapping to Outcast, but one of these specimens must be somewhere on the premises. What? Okay. Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville. Scientists have proven that listening to this song causes acute hemorrhaging of the eardrums in anyone under 47. Old people complaining. Nothing is more aggravating to kids than listening to their parents and grandparents tell the same sob stories of how hard life is when they were younger. Simply recruit an old person, give them a microphone, and get them to babble about any of the following: their polio-stricken little brother or sister, the war, or their alcoholic father who lost his job at the plant and beat them with a belt. Guaranteed to scare all children off. 4. Exploit the Neverland Ranch response. Oh, Jesus. If all else fails, you still can't bring yourself to touch it all, There's only one weapon left in your arsenal. Convert your farm, at tremendous expense, into a magical ranch full of exotic animals, amusement park rides, famous people's remains, and a gigantic silk-covered beds. Then invite the children over for a slumber party. Just as gazelles are born knowing to run when they see lions, today's children are born with the Neverland Ranch response, an instinctive compulsion to run away when confronted with exactly this situation. How to perform an exorcism. As powerful as they are, demons lack one thing we puny humans take for granted: a body. But every so often, Satan paroles an inmate and sends its top side with explicit instructions. Hijack a vulnerable human body. What does Beelzebub want with a measly meat puppet anyway? Simple. The scales of good and evil are precariously balanced. Tip them ever so slightly in one direction. A handful of demons taking human form will do it, and before long, God's on the ropes. Spend enough time in the Terrorverse and you'll encounter a human who's the subject of a hostile takeover. When you do, it's important to act quickly and decisively, because the fate of the world, and perhaps all of existence, is in your hands, so keep your cool and know your rights. 1. Confirm the need for an exorcism. You don't want to go through all of the trouble of carrying out an ancient ritual, only to discover that your supposed victim merely neglected to take their meds. The Catholic Church created strict guidelines for the rite of exorcism back in 1614, guidelines that have remained largely unchanged in 400 years. However, one notable amendment came in 1952, when priests were warned not to confuse mental illness with demonic possession, as opposed to the old days when the two were inseparable. Look for the following signs to determine that the exorcism is more urgent than a shrink. Telepathy. A demon will be able to mine your thoughts for fears, regrets, and embarrassing details, as well as project nightmarish visions into your head. It may also be able to predict the future. Make some bets, folks. When performing an exorcism, read scriptures. Reading scriptures can defuse a tense situation. Telekinesis. Demons have the ability to mentally manipulate objects, making doors slam, shake beds, hurling knives across the room, etc. Language. When possessed victims are fluent in languages they've never studied, usually Latin, they may also have the ability to speak backwards or in multiple voices. Appearance. Eyes that have changed color or gone completely white, and skin that is pale and covered in lacerations are sure signs of demonic possession. Gathering the required tools. You're going to need help, and lots of it. According to the rites of exorcism, only an ordained Catholic priest can perform the rite. So the first tool you'll need is a man of the cloth. The rites call for an older, morally pristine specimen, but forget that older part. Performing an exorcism is like going 12 rounds with Ivan Drago. The elderly do not need to apply. Your priest should be in killer shape, well rested, with zero emotional baggage. No recently deceased parents, no scandals, and no deep insecurities. If he's hiding anything, the demon will sniff it out in a heartbeat, and your padre will be at risk of becoming possessed himself. The next tool is a physician. Both you and the victim are likely to get some cuts and bruises during the exorcism. It's best to have an able-bodied MD on hand just in case. The doctor should be the same sex as the victim to avoid any scandalous touching that might empower the demon. And then there's you. You'll be on hand to provide whatever physical and moral support you can, beginning with the gathering of the following items. 1. Bible. These can be found in most hotel rooms. Crucifix. Not too big or too sharp. Holy water. By the bucket if possible. Surgical mask, gloves, and rubber boots. Blood and vomit will be flying. Rope. For tying the victim to the bed and for tying the bed to the floor. Warm clothes. The temperature is bound to drop as the demon does everything it can to make you uncomfortable. Fresh coffee. It's going to be a long night, so keep the pot full. 3. Prepare the room. First and foremost, the room should be on the ground floor. Too many priests have been lost as the result of accident or intentional leaps from high windows. If the victim's bedroom, often the easiest place to stage an exorcism, is on the upper floor, Move the victim to a bedroom on the ground floor. Place a plastic drop cloth on the floor and set all of the collected tools within easy reach. Finally, move all occult objects. Some of these may seem innocent, but to the trained exorcist, they express lanes of downtown hell. Stuffed animals. Children practically worship their precious bears and ponies. Such idolatry. Stop worshipping them. It is expressly forbidden by the Ten Commandments. Dungeons and Dragons, a game created by the Dark Lord to lure young nerds into his service. Watch us play D&D. Harry Potter books. Never mind that the letters in Harry Potter can be arranged to spell Thy Terror Pa. Pa is an obvious reference to God. These books encourage young readers to imagine a world filled with ghosts, witches, and naughty children. And imagination is the devil's playground. Non-Christian albums. These are music to Satan's ears. Computers. The internet is a haven for smut peddlers and secularist bloggers. 4. Start with a prayer. Any prayer will do. Make sure to ask for God's divine assistance with the difficult task ahead and profess your personal unworthiness as a sinner a few times. Throw in a little Latin for some seasoning. It always tastes sweet. Take roll call. Place one hand on the Bible and the other on the victim's forehead. Command that any demons present reveal themselves. The demon will begin to resist. Ignore it and continue to step 6. Read scripture. The following passages are recommended in the Catholic Church's official rites. John 14. The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. We have seen his glory and the glory of one and only who came from the Father, full of grace and truth. Mark 16:17. And these signs will accompany those who believe. In my name will they drive out demons. Thy will speak in new tongues. Luke 10:17 through 18. The 72 returned with joy and said, Lord, even the demons submit to us in your name. He replied, I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven. Luke 11:14. Jesus was driving out a demon that was mute. When the demon left, the man who had been mute spoke, and the crowd was amazed. Command the demon to leave the victim's body. This is where the priest's voice should reach full fire and brimstone pitch. Make repeated references to the power of Christ. Repeat this phrase over and over again. Depart then, impious one. Get the fuck out. Depart, accursed one. Depart with all your deceit, for God has willed that man should be his temple. Number 8. Ready for demonic counterattacks. Your demonic foe won't go quietly into the eternal night. It'll do everything in its considerable power to confuse, tire, anger, and manipulate you. If given the chance, it will kill you too. Everyone on the exorcism team needs to stay focused if there's to be any hope of success. And to do that, they need to know what's coming. Personal insight. Nothing that comes out of the victim's mouth, including vomit, should be given a second thought, no matter how personal or painful it is to hear. Vision. Don't take anything you see at face value, no matter how real it seems. This is including the appearance of dead friends, dreamlike flashes of hideous faces, and images of your own death. Vulgarity. Catholic priests are celibate, and there's nothing demons love more than pushing those dusty buttons to make them sweat. Be ready for pornographic dialogue. Displays of power. Levitation, window rattling, temperature fluctuations, electrical disturbances, appearance changes, furniture moves, and head spinning, to name a few. 9. Make sure the demon's really gone. Sometimes those tricky little hellions will pretend to flee in the name of Christ, when in fact they're just laying low until you leave. So before you go ahead and proclaim victory over the armies of the damned, it would behoove you to conduct a few experiments to confirm the total absence of the demon. Have the victim take communion. Minions of Satan don't react well to the Eucharist. Take the victim to the zoo. If the animals become uneasy, you've still got a problem. Give the victim a bath. Don't tell them that they're bathing in holy water. They'll do fine. the demons will flee. So the next time we'll find out what to do if you only have 7 days to live. Thank you guys for joining me and all you little demons. See you next time.
Good night.